This is Victor Alpha 3, Alpha Zulu Alpha, and we'll start on that here in just about 2 seconds. There's a tiny bit late there. I connected to the wrong node. What did everyone want? Anyway, stand by for about 2 seconds. Good evening, this is Victor Alpha 3, Alpha Zulu Alpha, and my name is Brian. I am your controller tonight for the Mississauga Amateur Radio Club Tuesday Night Net. The net is available on the club's VHF repeater at Echolink between 20:30 hours and approximately 21:45 hours local time in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. It is streamed live on YouTube, where archives of previous nets can be found. Stand by, please. To participate in the net on the VE3MIS VHF repeater, tune 145.430 megahertz with a negative 600 kilohertz offset and a 103.5 hertz tone. To participate on Echolink, connect to the TechLink conference, node number 9229. To listen live on YouTube and comment, search YouTube for VE3MIS. Stand by, please. If you would like to find out more about the Mississauga Amateur Radio Club, visit our website at www.ve3mis.ca. That's Victor Echo 3, Mike India Sierra, Charlie Alpha. Our email address is ve3mis@rac.ca. That's Victor Echo 3, Mike India Sierra @Romeo Alpha Charlie Charlie Alpha. Stand by, please. The purpose of this net is to pass news and views along to members and visitors of the club. It also provides experience to volunteer operators in net and emergency operating procedures. All check-ins are welcome, and we especially invite non-members to join in. Stand by, please. The Mississauga Amateur Radio Club meets virtually via Zoom conferencing software on the second and fourth Thursday of each month. Our meetings emphasize comradeship and learning and are open to guests and visitors. See our website to learn how to join the virtual meetings. Non-members who wish to attend should email ve3mis@rac.ca to obtain instructions for virtual admissions. Stand by, please. Not too much in the way of announcements for tonight. There's no club meeting this week. It is next week, April the 28th. Just a few little reminders here too. On Friday night, usually, you can connect to the TechNet, Flying Pig Net, on Echolink conference number 9229, which is the same one that this net is hosted on. And that's at 8 p.m. Local time here in Mississauga. Also, tomorrow, typically, we do have people who are connecting to the Cross Canada IRLP, and I don't have the IRLP number from me. I believe it's 9013. I'll check that later, I guess. But that one is often connected by hams between 11 a.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, and noon. Stand by, please. For this evening, we have an optional question or a series of questions to address if you wish. You have a chance to check in, and it today just pertains to digital operations. Now, by digital, I don't mean C4FM or D-Star or even Echolink. What I'm thinking of is things like PSK31. And the question is, do you operate on digital VSK31 or all sorts of other FT8, I think, is another popular digital mode. Do you operate on digital? What sort of equipment do you use? Which bands seem to have the most activity? So tonight, we're looking for some comments, and maybe even some stories about operating digital for all those who might be interested. I guess you can frame your answers in a way that seems people who are listening are kind of keen to get involved in operating digital. I'll let you know the secret. I'd probably be one of them. But I'm sure I've got lots of experience out there operating in this mode. Okay, stand by, please. The net will be conducted in 2 rounds, a check-in round and a 7-3 round. During check-in round, check-ins will be called in 2 broad groups of traffic, short-time check-ins and general check-ins. Emergency check-ins will be taken at any time. Sometimes mobile RF and echolink check-ins may be called by themselves to reduce the risk of doubling. Please listen carefully and check in with the group that best matches your circumstances. Finally, avoid transmitting more than about 1 minute without keying up to prevent system timeouts. Remember, we're connected to quite a few pieces of equipment here, and some of them may not tolerate being transmitting for a long period of time. Stand by, please. Again, your controller for tonight's set is me, Brian, and my call sign is Victor Alpha 3 Alpha Zulu Alpha. When checking in, please announce your call sign using phonetics, followed by your first name. And we will start right now with short-time check-ins. That means if you're in a rush or you possibly can't check in later, you can only make it for 1 round. And let's look for RF short-time check-in. So if you're out there on RF and you'd like to get in right now because you can't stay too long, come now, please, with your call sign spelled phonetically, followed by your first name. Okay, nothing heard on short-time RF. Let's try short-time echolink, or any digital, actually. Sometimes All-Star is coming across through a bridge into echolink. Anyone who's on digital out there who would like to check in should come now, please, if it's short-time. So short-time digital check-ins. Come now, please, with your call sign spelled phonetically, followed by your first name.
VA3 Golf Delta Zulu, Gary, short time.
Okay, net control right now, which is Gary, VA3 Zulu Dead. I think that's the only short-time check-in, and he is on the digital side tonight. And let's see, we'll go to Gary, and then we're going to look for generals after that. Gary, hope all is well. And, yeah, you're coming in on the digital side tonight. I guess you're away. But tell us all about your experience. I don't know if you've done any digital stuff like that PSK31. I don't mean the D-Star or that stuff, but the PSK31 or anything of that nature, FT8. Or if you haven't, even if you're curious about it, we'll pass it over to you. Net control over to VA3 GBZ.
Thank you there, Brian, and hi to all on the Mississauga Club Net this evening, and the ham conference is in there as well. That's where I'm coming in on. I am up in cottage country, about 3 hours north of Toronto right now. The internet seems to be working okay this evening. Doesn't always. Let's see what's new. First, I like your questions, but I don't have much to say. I am not in any of those modes, and FT8 sounds relatively boring. I like nice, clear conversations, such as you can get on Echolink, or the Peanut app works great, and All-Star. I am a bit curious to see it, but I'm really not into that right now. Other than that, what's new up here? Well, we saw the last of the ice on the lake. It's all melted now. It was kind of interesting to see it. The wind blows in, but the wind also blows in a lot of crap, too, off the lake over the winter. Let me see what we had this year. We had a fairly big tree come in. It looked like a beaver had knocked it down, from what I could tell. We had some dock bumpers float in. I guess I could use those. And we had one of those large yellow rafts, foam rafts that the kids like to jump up and down on and play on. I think I'm past use of that. So my philosophy is going to be the lake giveth and the lake shall receiveth as soon as the wind direction shifts the other way. I'm going to give it back to the lake. Other than that, delivery time of anything that you want to order is about twice as long as normal, and if you need a handyman or craftsman these days, they are really busy and few and far between. I guess it's got to do with the pandemic and the supply shortage and that. Anyways, I wanted to pop in very quickly for a one and done to say hi and support the net tonight. This is Victor Alpha 3, Golf Delta Zulu, Gary coming in from Haliburton, Ontario in cottage country.
VA3, DZ, VA3A today, net control returning. Okay, Gary, good for you. Sounds good. And so, very interesting observation about the lake. I remember when you always get surprises. You go up there in the spring, and there's always a nice little surprise, just like Christmas. I remember when I went up, it was when I had a boat, and I used to keep it up in 12 Mile Bay, and it was up the slip, and we noticed this dark thing in the water, and towards the bow, so we went over to look, and it was someone's boat cover had blown off, and I don't have no idea where it came from, or when, and it was floating. It was like 2 or 3 feet underwater. It was floating there, and we retrieved it. I don't know why. It stayed in my garage for a while, but it wasn't in good shape, and then we eventually disposed of it. But one of many treasures obtained during the arrival of spring, I guess. But anyway, good that you could join us, and if you were able to make a check in here. I know sometimes you go and listen on the YouTube side too afterwards. But anyway, we got you down for a short time check in. Good to hear from you. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to take a quick break here. Stand by. Okay, net control is returning. Well, let's see. That's our short time for now. Let's take a look for some general check-ins, and we'll start with RF. So if you're out there on RF and you'd like to check into the Mississauga Amateur Radio Club 2-meter net, come now please with your call sign, spelled phonetically, followed by your first name. RF, please.
Victor Echo 3, X-Ray Bravo Hotel.
Victor Alpha 3, Hotel Echo Sierra, Mark.
Victor Echo 3, Yankee Sierra November, Satya. Victor Echo 3, Whiskey Bravo Foxtrot, Barry.
Okay, net control acknowledge shows 4 check-ins on RF. I heard VE3WBF Barry. I heard VE3YSN Sacha. I heard VA3ACS Mark, and I heard VE3XBH Brian. That was on the RF side. Well, let's talk to our RF participants, and then we'll go on and get some echo link after that, and we'll go right to the top of the list. Brian's here, VE3XBH. Brian, I hope all is well with you. And I know you've done some experimenting on digital, I'm sure, because I've asked about it in the past, but maybe you can tell us which bands are particularly busy, if you're still doing some digital, and what kind of equipment you're using, and what the minimum amount of equipment is. And I have a question for you when you come back. Over to you.
VA3AZA, VE3XBH, Brian in Mississauga. Good evening, everyone on the net, and hope everybody's well. We're pretty good here. Well, I guess to answer your question, Brian, I do some FT8, and I also do some PSK31. The FT8 is kind of fun if you want to sort of get a contact and that's it, but there's no chance really for conversation at all. So the PSK31, at least you can share a couple of things across with whoever you're with. So if you're looking for a lot of DX, the FT8 is kind of handy. But if you want to maybe get some DX and also some kind of conversation, find out what the conditions are there and what the other person's using and that sort of thing, the PSK31 is pretty good. And I'll drop for a second. The equipment that I use, actually, I'm using a Yaesu DX3000. It has a sound card built into it, so I just have the computer plugged into the sound card, and FL Digi works for PSK31, and then FTDX, I think it is what I use for FT8. So they both seem to work pretty well. I get most of my contacts on either 20 or 40, so but I think that's just where I happen to be looking at the time. So that's about it from me, Brian. I'll send it back to you. VA3A today, VE3XPH.
VE3XPH, VA3A today, I control returning. Okay, Brian, sounds good. Yeah, that's interesting. So the sound card is built right into the transceiver. That kind of saves some extra equipment there. That's good. I know, because I know otherwise you have to somehow get that working. And I guess the signal length is probably one of the more popular solutions. But I guess, the question I had for you is, and I don't know, you might not know because it doesn't really apply, I think, it might not apply to your setup. Actually, I have two questions. One is, do you need to use the CAT control if you're using FL Digi? Or could you just set your radio up on a frequency and, you don't change the frequency? What's the setup? If you do 20 meters or 40 meters, PSK31 is just a dedicated frequency for it. You just tune that in and leave it. You don't really need to control the radio beyond that. But the other stuff, the transmit and receive, is all passed on through a different connection anyway. You need that one. That's one thing I couldn't figure out. I was doing a little bit of reading on the weekend about this. I just didn't see whether you could get away with not using the CAT to control the transceiver while you're doing your digital. But anyway, that was my question. I don't know if you have any experience with that. But yeah, the other thing is the FL Digi. I guess that's perfectly adequate for PSK31. You're doing it, and that's kind of an answer to my question. Anyway, back to you.
Well, Brian, I've done it two ways. The way I'm set up now is I use the CAT control, and both software packages have that. So you have to do a little bit of configuration both on the radio and on the software. But what I did before that was I used the Vox function on the radio, so that basically you tune the radio manually just like you normally would, and then when you keyed on the software, the Vox would detect the audio signal coming in, switch the transceiver to transmit, and they both work actually quite well. The only advantage I have with the CAT is I can get the frequency coming back off the rig and automatically go into the logging software, and that way I don't have to be if I change the frequency, I don't have to go into the software and change it. It automatically reads that kind of thing. But that's basically it. So you can do it a number of different ways, but those are the two ways that I've done it. VE3AZA, VE3XBH.
Oh, VE3XBH, VE3AZA. Okay, that's interesting, Brian. I think, actually, come to think of the box for the transmit, I think I remember reading about that in the FL Digi, like how to configure your setup for your radio and your computer with FL Digi. I distinctly remember reading about that one. But interesting to point out that the great virtue of the CAT is getting the operating frequency off the radio, so that I guess that makes the logging a little bit more efficient. I didn't even think of that. I think I saw a demo with Ham Radio Deluxe where the logging it seemed to be of that nature. It occurred to me that must be coming through the CAT. So okay, interesting. We learn all sorts of stuff here. And I guess the other thing, FL Digi runs on so many different platforms. You can run it on Windows or Linux or whatever. So that's kind of interesting too. All right, anything else you want to add there, Brian? I'll pass it back to you. Net control to VE3XBH.
VE3AZA, VE3XBH. Not at this time. I'll be listening along and be around for the 7-3 round, Brian. So I'll send it back to you, and we'll listen and see what everybody else has to say, and we'll catch you on the 7-3. VE3AZA, VE3XBH.
Okay, net control returning VE3XBH. We shall put you down for the second go, Brian. And we'll see who's next on the list here. Mark, I believe, VA3HES. Mark, hope all is well. And we'll pass it. I don't know if you've experimented with this stuff. I can't remember. I know you've done a lot of experiments with portable. I don't know if you've done this, if you've done digital portable, or if you've done that kind of digital. But anyway, you can tell us all about it. Net control to VA3HES.
VA3AZA, VA3HES. Well, good evening, Brian, and all on frequency tonight. First things first, we are live on YouTube as usual. To search VE3MIS in YouTube, and you'll find our live stream and a archive of all previous live stream nets. Well, at the beginning of my ham radio adventures 2 years ago, I did play a lot of FT8 because it was neat and cool, and it was something I could do when I was up late at night and I couldn't hear anybody on the bands. But the bug for talking voice on sideband has bitten, and the only time I really use FT8 is when doing a bit of weak signal stuff, UHF and VHF stuff occasionally, and at the club station, we do use FT8 and some of the other modes like JT65 to do moon bounce, which is, if you've ever tried moon bounce or haven't, it's fun, it's neat, but it's also kind of like watching paint dry, which honestly is what FT8 kind of became for me, because it just turned into staring at the screen. Though it is a great way to make DX that you otherwise wouldn't, as Brian had mentioned. And yeah, any radio, any of the modern radios with a USB connection makes it really simple to do the audio and CAT, and it makes them for a minimal of setup. Though with the older rigs and getting a rig expert interface in, it does complicate things a bit more. But that's all for now. Brian, back to you.
VA3HES, VA3AZA, net control returning. Okay, Mark, very interesting. JT65, and it's a moon bounce. That's actually quite interesting. See how all that works. And I think, as you say, the newer radios have some of the hardware in them for that kind of digital. Otherwise, you have to have the external sound card configured in some way. And, very interesting. Well, I've seen the videos of PSK 31, and I've seen so the QSOs unfold. I don't think I've seen FT8. I don't know that much about FT8, except apparently it's like mostly for contacts, not really for QSOs. So I'll have to look for some videos on that as well. Anyway, very interesting. Anything else you want to add in the first round here, Brian? Over to you.
One of the more interesting modes is JS8 call, which is very similar in a technical manner to FT8, and that's what they call a keyboard-to-keyboard way of having a QSO. So it's I won't say it's real time, but you can actually have a QSO one letter at a time. I've tried it a number of times. It is rather interesting, but one thing I would like to try actually is RIDI. I know it's very long in the tooth and well-established method of communication, but I've never tried it. I've tuned across it a million times, but it was something on my list of things to try. And as far as making DX, last Monday morning I was up extremely early for work, and I figured I'd turn on the radio for 10 minutes, and I made my first voice sideband contact to Australia on 40 meters at about 6 in the morning, and we exchanged a 5x8 signal report and talked for a moment before I had to get on my way. But early bird gets the worm, I guess. I have to. I guess I should get up a little earlier and spend some time in the shack first thing in the morning instead of being in here late at night. That's all for now. Back to you, Brian.
VA3HF, VA3HF net control training. Okay, Mark, that sounds kind of neat there, that contact with Australia. I'm curious, did you do that from home? And how much power were you using? Over to you.
VA3HES returning. Yeah, Brian, that was here at home with the ASU 991 running at 90 watts and my off-center fed dipole between the two tall trees in my backyard, up at about 30 feet in the air. And I was quite surprised. I literally just spun the dial randomly, and I could hear a station. I tuned him in, and lo and behold, it was a VK station calling CQ. So I figured if I can hear him, he can probably hear me, and lo and behold, he called back.
Yes, here's the next chart training. Okay, Mark, that's really neat. Very good. And yeah, well, as I say, it's definitely worth a try. When you hear someone, you can see if the path leads in the other direction, which usually does, and you're all set. That's really neat. I was actually on the weekend. I was listening on my little radio. I was just listening. I wasn't transmitting, but I was listening to this. I was kind of local, New York State, and some stuff around Tennessee, places like that. So I didn't hear anything too far away. Although I have heard, over the years, you hear quite distant stations. It's only a question of the efficiency of the canvas, whether I can have enough power to reach them. But that's really, really neat. So good for you. I was going to say, quick standby here. VA3A to the returning. And okay, Mark, we'll keep you on the list for a second go, and thank you very much for managing the YouTube live stream for us. That's always kind of amazing to see, and people come by and look at that. Much appreciated. Okay, let's go to, I believe it's, I know who it is, Sasha, and it's the call sign is VE3YSN. I think it's YSN, Sasha. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So we'll pass it over to you. Net control to VE3YSN.
VE3AZA, VE3YSN. Good evening to you, Brian, and very good evening to everyone on this frequency. Hope you are doing good, Brian. Yes, I was not checking in these days. Little QRL this side. So hope everything is going good. So I use packet radio, packet communication, and I have an RMS as well with VE3YSA, and it's all fit into a small box with a small handy setup. At present, I'm using a new radio, FTM 200 Delta Romeo. So just I'm testing it with you. This is the first contact with this radio with you, Brian. VE3AZA, VE3YSN.
VE3YSN, VA3AZA, that control thing. Okay, so well, good to hear you. Excellent to hear you. And so you did a little bit of packet, and you had a compact setup for that. And you said you have a new radio. This is one of your first contacts for that, I think. That's an FTM, I think you said it was a 200. FTM 200, and I'm just as you see, that is new. That hasn't been around too long, if I remember correctly. And I believe I'm cheating right now. I'm kind of looking it up on I'm looking it up on Radio World as we talk here. But I believe that is a mobile radio, if I remember correctly, FTM 200. I'm just looking at it. Yes, it is. That's right, mobile C4. Yeah, that looks like a neat radio. So are you using this from home, or are you using it in your car, or are you moving it all about? Tell us what you're doing with it. Over to you.
VE3AZA, VE3YSN. Thank you, Brian. Yes, I'm using. It's a mobile, and it's brand new. I think it is in the market from last 1 month probably. So yeah, this is my first contact on this radio with you. Yes, it's a mobile, and I'm using it from the home. Yeah, QSL VE3AZA, VE3YSN.
VE3YSN, VA3AZA, net control training. Okay, sounds good. Amazing. Yeah, that is. I look at them. You always go back out and keep an eye on what's for sale these days, and in the way of transceivers, and they have a whole bunch out now. They've got there's a 300, there's a 200, and there's a 6000R. These are the AZ radios. They're typically, I guess, I don't know, March or February. But I was surprised because the 6000R is kind of surprising because it's not a digital radio. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but whereas the 200 and the 300 and the 400 are all C4FM, but that 6000 is an analog radio, and I was just surprised when I thought that they were still manufacturing a new radio that wasn't digital capable, but. I guess it changes the price structure and all that kind of stuff. And maybe for some applications where it's more appropriate. But they got a whole pile of radios out there. Asia has those three, so that's really neat. Anything else you want to add on the first go? We'll be around for a second. Go over to you.
VE3AZA, VE3YSN. I may not be available for the 73 surround brand. Thank you very much, and 73 to you. Good night. VE3AZA, VE3YSN.
VE3YSN, VA3AZA, net control training. Okay, Satya, so that's fine. It was good to hear from you. Very nice to hear from you, and maybe we'll hear again from you next week too. And you should enjoy your new radio, find all the tricks that it can do, and there's probably lots of fun in there. So thanks for joining us. Let's see, that brings me down to Barry. Barry's next on the list. He's been waiting patiently there. Net control to VE3WBF. Go ahead and take it.
Net control and the net. This is VE3WBF. Name is Barry. It's been very quiet this week. The end of college is this week, and the final exam was done today, for me anyways. So most of the week was prepping for that particular exam, and that's all I've done basically. I haven't even listened to the radio for very long. Nice surprise yesterday when it snowed, and I've always predicted that it will snow once during Easter. So it was a little late, but not too far off. I'm going to be one and done here, so I'm going to take it back to the net and say my 73s now. This is VE3WBF, over.
VE3WBF, this is VE380 today. Okay, we already got you down for a 7-3, so yeah, you're busy with your final exam. I'm just curious, you said the exam was today, so do you have to mark it all now? Over to you.
No, I don't. It's all multiple guess. I just have to go through and make sure that nothing got screwed up. So it all is already marked. I just have to put the final marks in, and I'm done. Over.
VE3WBF, VE380 next children. Okay, I was just curious. Yeah, sometimes that's been one of the advantages of well, maybe you always did that at the college, but sometimes we were a little bit slow there in secondary, getting things off of paper and into the screen. But because of the pandemic and because of the fact that we operated online for a while, a lot of the evaluations were converted to sort of a format that allowed for automated evaluation. So it's kind of interesting how all these things sort of push you along. Anyway, thank you for joining us on the first round. And I know you said you're not going to be here for 7-3. That's okay. So it's good to hear from you on the first round. And let's see, I'm at the end of my RF general check-in list. Let's see if there's anyone else on RF before we go to Alcolink. If you're out there on RF and you'd like to join us, come now please with your call sign spelled phonetically, followed by your first name. RF only, please. Net control returning. Okay, it looks like I think we've got all of our RF check-ins. Let's go to Echolink. And we're looking for anyone who wants to check in to the Mississauga Amateur Radio Club Commuter Net. If you're out there and you would like to join us, come now please your call sign spelled phonetically followed by your first name. And remember, Echolink doesn't mean just Echolink. You could be coming off the bridge from some other road as well. So we're listening for your check-ins. Come now please.
VK2DY.
Okay, net control acknowledges one check in there. That's VK2DY, and that is Robert in Australia. And hope all is well with you, Robert. We're here. We're chatting away here about experiences with digital, but digital meaning like PSK 31 or FT8 or JT65. Mark talked about that one. That kind of digital. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on those modes, using them, or just wondering what bands are active and what equipment you may have used, but if you haven't used it, that's fine. If you're curious about it, you can tell us about your curiosity. Anyway, we'll pass it to you. Net control to VK2DY.
Good morning. This is Robert, Victor Kilo 2, Delta Yankee in Kellyville Ridge, New South Wales, but all part of the urban sprawl that is Sydney. Just doing a little bit of autumn garage cleaning here, so I'm outdoors. And I'm starting to hear airplanes again. It's amazing. For 2 years, the airports were basically shut down, and now airplanes are flying over again. So it's interesting to hear the airplanes fly again. Anyway, other than that, 22 degrees Celsius and bright blue clear sky. We've had about a week's worth of sunshine. Just gorgeous, warm summerish days. We got up to 29 or 30 yesterday Celsius. So that's pretty warm for this late in autumn. But unfortunately, it's all changing tomorrow, and it's going to turn cool and wet. But we had a stretch. We had a stretch, and it included the 4-day weekend, so all was good. As to the topic here, well, you know, I've always wanted to get into FTH and that, but I haven't really gotten the chance to do so. But it would be, I think it'd be interesting. There were people talking on a couple of the nets here that they were getting real strong signals into Japan and into Malaysia and Indonesia and into Southeast Asia. From here, of course. So apparently the band conditions were really good the other night. So I probably should start playing with that, but I just haven't had a chance. I assume you have to hook your computer up to your radio. I have an FT897, which is an older model. But I assume you can still do that. I don't even know how that even works, but it'd be interesting to give it a try. Thank you very much for taking my check-in. VK2DY, back to net.
Well, VK2DY, VA2A today, net controller training. Okay, Robert. Yeah, thanks for checking in. Always good to hear from you. And you're in your fall. You sound like you had one of those lovely periods that, well, I guess anyone who's in a location where there are those, you do get sort of a noticeable autumn. You do have these lovely autumn days that are kind of they're reminiscent of summer, but. They're very pleasant. I guess they're maybe, I don't know whether they're a little drier than the summer, but yeah, lots of sunshine. It's lovely autumn days, but that's warm. 28 degrees, 29 degrees, pretty warm. Usually our fall days, well, I guess in September we'll get, might at the beginning of September get some weather like that. It's really just leftover summer more than autumn, but once you get into it, it's not quite that warm. But anyway, it sounds good with the with the digital, with your radio. That's the trick, I guess, getting the thing connected. And it all depends on what's in your radio and what ports are available. I've never done it. I'm just kind of looking into it. But you have to be connected to your computer somehow, and it could be through an external sound card, and then that's connected. That's connected to the radio part way, and it's one half is the radio, one half is the computer, and then there's potentially another control for the radio itself. But yeah, it's a little bit, sort of sort that out. That's what I was trying to sort out. Yeah, I'm kind of eager to try it. Now that I'm reminded too, I'm just going to take a quick standby here. Standby. I'll be here today with you. I was just thinking, with the computer part of it, I guess it could be, I have no idea, I'm totally speculating, but I guess it could be a Raspberry Pi. I know that FL Digi is multi-platform, and I don't assume that it needs to be on a desktop installation of Linux. I wonder whether it could be put on a Pi, and whether the whole thing could be run from a Pi. I don't know if usually the sound connection is the source of trouble, but instead of having a big bulky laptop computer, if you ever went anywhere, you could just bring a Pi. Of course, you need to be able to somehow access the Pi. Anyway, yeah, there are lots of big question marks for sorting all this stuff out. Well, Robert, anything else you want to add before we look for a few more check-ins here? Net control over to VK2DY.
I'm going to have to look into that. I'm sure you can do it on a Pi. I'm absolutely certain you can do it on a Pi. In fact, people are doing it on Pi. But I just have to do some research. Thank you again, VK2DY. Back to that.
Well, VK2DY, VA2A net control attorney. Yeah, you do read a lot of people using the Pis to do it, so I was trying to come up with a way that wouldn't involve too much. It's a lot to coordinate, especially if you don't have a computer that's readily available. I have sort of half of everything. I have a laptop that doesn't charge properly, and then I've got a desktop that's too far away access to an antenna, you know, so it's like you got half of everything and never enough in one place to actually do it. So with the Raspberry Pi, maybe it could be a solution. I still got to have a monitor and a keyboard of some sort. Anyway, good to hear from you. We'll keep you on the list here for a second, though. And let's see if there's anyone else out there on Echolink who would like to check in. If you're out there on Echolink and you'd like to join us in the general check-in round of the Mississauga Amateur Radio Club VE3MIS Net, come now please with your call sign spelled phonetically, followed by your first name. Okay, nothing heard. And that brings me to the end of my check-in list. We'll go back to the beginning here and make a 7-3 round here. We got a short net tonight here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, got 6 call signs, so that's okay. Let's go. Okay, now Gary told me he wouldn't be here, but he always tells me that, and then he's around. So I think I'm going to call him and see if he is still around and would like to give any thoughts on the 7-3 side of things here. So, Gary, VA3GDZ, if you're still there, come now please for a 7-3 comment, and we'll pass it to you. Net control over to VA3GDZ. Okay, nothing heard from Gary. Let's try Brian. VE3XVH. Brian, come on in for a 7-3. And I don't know if you want to add. Oh, yeah, actually, a little bit of discussion here about this whole digital business. I don't know if you want to add anything, but we'll pass it over to you. Net control to VE3XVH.
VE3AZA, VE3XBH. No, I don't really have anything else to add. Good net tonight, Brian, and a lot of good information as usual. And nice to hear all the regulars in there. So with that, I'll just say 7-3 and send it back to you. VA3AZA, VE3XBH.
VE3XBH, VA3AZA, next returning. Okay, Brian, good to hear from you as usual. And hope you have a good week. We shall speak again, I think, next week. We'll hear you. Let's see. Oh, I think. I'm trying to remember who was. I think Jim might be doing that next week. I can't remember. In that case, I'll hear you. May not speak to you, though. Let's go down to VA3HEF. So that is Mark. Mark, actually, I have a question for you. And again, this is my preliminary reading and my half-formed understanding of how digital works. But is it correct that the actual information which is sent is modulated with 2 tones? You know, if you listen, you can almost hear them, and that those 2 tones are carrying the information, or are there many tones? I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe there's some information about that. VA3AZA over to VA3HES.
VA3AZA, VA3HES. Well, 7-3, Ryan. Thanks for hosting that. Another good one. And 7-3 to everybody. And as far as the way it modulates the audio, I'd be talking out of my posterior if I knew the answer to that. I believe it is some form of a modulated tone that has like a center frequency. But you know, a guy with a PhD came up with the software, so I'm pretty sure if you go to the Joe Taylor website, there's a big in-depth explanation on how the transmission actually works. 7-3, Brian, back to you.
VA3HES, VA3HES, next short running. Yeah, I just, you know, it's one of these things, you start reading about this and you have like thousands of questions jumping around in your mind, and some fragment. It may have been just in relation to PSK31, but anyway, yeah, that's quite a complex business, how that information is actually sitting on those tones. But Anyway, actually, I guess it reaches back to the golden days of 1200 baud modems and 2400 baud modems, the way all that stuff works. But yeah, there's a little bit of reading there to do for sure. Mark, thanks again for the management and operation of the YouTube stream, and for keeping that thing going and answering questions about that as well. Thank you very much for your efforts. Let's see if Sasha is there. She said he might not be there, but that's okay. We'll give him a try. VE3MIS VHF. Sasha, if you're there, come on in. Over to you. Okay, net control returning. Nothing heard from Sasha. He's probably playing with his new radio, going through all the manuals and sorting out what these things do, what the various operations are supported, and how to get them working. Let's see. Barry said he wouldn't have a 7.3. Let's try. We'll give him a try anyway. See if he's there. Maybe he's still hanging out. VE3WBF. Barry, if you're still there, you can come in for 7.3. Over to you.
This is VE3WBF. I was expecting a longer net, so this is quite short. I believe to answer your question about FT8, it's a frequency modulated with 8 tones, and your symbol size is 3 digits. So that's about as far as I know, and I'm probably talking out of my ass too. So this is Victor Echo 3, Whiskey Bravo Foxtrot, back to the net. Over.
VE3WBF, VA380 next show returning. Okay, Barry. No, I'm glad I called because you're there, and that's good. Nice to hear from you. Yeah, I can't. You know what? I'm gonna have to do some digging. It's just, yeah. I don't. I keep thinking it was 2 for this particular mode, but I'm sure the information does there, so maybe more. And then the symbol set, how big the symbol set is, all that stuff, but. Yeah, a little bit of reading to do there. Anyway, good to hear from you, and maybe we'll hear from you next week. Probably will. We probably will hear from you next week. Let's see. That brings us down to VK2DY Robert in Australia. Robert, we're in the 7-3 round here, and we'll pass it over to you for any final comments. That control to VK2DY.
This is VK2DY here. Other digital modes as well out there that are digital voice. I guess you can do D-Star on HF, and then there's also free DV, which I believe is the same codec that's being used in M17, and there are people using free DV also out on HF. So there's not only packet type signals, there's also voice. So another thing to play with. Anyway, thank you again for a wonderful net, and 73. VK2DY, back to net.
VK2DY, CA2A today, net control training. Okay, Robert, good to hear from you. And yes, of course, there's all about digital voice stuff as well. And it does all sorts of interesting tricks. You know, it does the C4FM stuff. You can use it for text messaging. So that's sort of interesting. Done that a little bit on this one radio. You can use it for, of course, just regular digital voice. I guess you can. I don't know if you can do both at the same time. I forget how the channel gets split up there, but yeah, it does some really neat stuff, and it's fun to experiment with that as well. So between the digital voice and other things you can do through digital voice and the other stuff, the older stuff, RTTY and PSK31, JT65. I just mentioned FT8. There's quite a world to investigate there, and very interesting stuff. Okay, that brings me to the end of my list of check-ins. Let's see if there's anyone else out there who wants to join us at the end of the Mississauga Amateur Radio Club Junior Net. If you're out there and you would like to check in, come now please with your call sign, spelled phonetically, followed by your first name.
VE3WM, John.
Okay, net control acknowledges VA3WM, John. John, you know, I don't know if you've been listening along, or had a chance to listen along, but I was exploring that topic that I began exploring with you in an email, and that is the whole business of digital RF, not digital voice necessarily, but the other modes, RTTY, as we said, and JTA, and DSK31. So anyway, we're just asking people about their experiences using those modes and where they have found the most activity on the bands, maybe what equipment they're using. Anyway, I hope all is well with you, and I'll pass it to you. Net control over to VA3WM.
AZA from VA3WM. Good evening, everyone on the Mississauga Net. Well, could be good morning if you're in Australia or other parts of the world, but anyway, yeah, I sent you a response about using PSK and things like that. It's on my list of things I'd like to do. I do have my FT817 upstairs. I found a very small table that I could put it on. I think like the 817 is a great radio, but for me, the display is a bit small. And I'm making do with it, and I do have a cat cable for it, and so I think it's just a matter of saying today's the day I'm going to do it, and excuse me, do it. That's what I have to do. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what I get out of it. VA3 AZA, VA3 WM.
Oh, VA3WM, VA3 AZA, net control attorney. Yeah, no, I did, and I got your response there, John. I would agree with the 817. The display is actually quite small. I think it's only about, is it 2 lines? 2-line display, I can't remember. Maybe you can adjust. Oh yeah, I think you can. You can actually, you can double the font size essentially. I think, and you can go from 2 lines to 1 line, which makes the display information easier to read, but you can fit less information on the screen. That is a very small display, and with glare, if you ever have it outside and you've got glare, it's quite a challenge to read it. So maybe the cat cable is a good thing because you can hook it up to a computer, and then of course the computer screens don't tolerate too much glare before they're unreadable either. But yeah, it's challenging reading them outside if you take it outside or in bright light inside. It's hard to get around that one. But anyway, yeah, that's right. It's a matter of doing it. Just get your equipment together and say, okay, today I'm going to do it. That's probably the best way to approach it. Pick a day and commit to doing it. But yeah, that was quite an interesting email you sent me with all of your digital voice stuff too. So, is there anything else you want to add here in this 7-3 round? We'll pass it back to you, VA3 today, over to VA3WM.
Not anything further, Brian, other than to remind folks to give me a check-in tomorrow on the TransCanada IRLP net from 11 till noon. I'm in the Ontario portion and look forward to hearing from you. VA3 AZA, VA3 WM.
VA3WM, VA3 AZA, net control thing. Oh, John, that reminds me, I have a question about the TransCanada, which is tomorrow. I couldn't remember. I'm working off my memory here because I lost part of my script. Is that room 9013? Is that right? Is it 9013? Over to you.
The IRLP reflector for TransCanada IRLP is 9013. 9013. Over.
VE3WM, VE2, Okay, John, thank you. So it is that reflector 9013, 9013. Good. Alrighty. Well, that brings us to the end of our list again. Let's see if there's anyone else out there on Aqualink who would like to check in. If you're out on Aqualink and you'd like to join us here at the end of the Mississauga Amateur Radio Club Community Net, come now please with your call sign spelled phonetically followed by your first name. Net control retrieving. Let's see. I heard someone in there. I think they're on the ham conference. He keyed up, but there was no audio. Maybe we want to give it another try. Let's see here. We'll take a little standby, see if he can get in. Okay, net control retrieve, nothing heard. And we'll just one more call here to see whether there's anyone else out there who wants to give it a try. If you want to join us, this is the last call for the Mississauga Amateur Radio Club Community Net. Come now, please, with your call sign. Spell phonetically followed by your first name. Okay, and I guess I think I saw the same key up there, but there's no audio. And you see there's a message here in the box from VE3HFU. Maybe that looks like it's Michael. I think he may not have a microphone, but that's okay. All right, well, it's actually VE3WM. Just wanted to thank you for joining us. I didn't do that. Always nice to hear from you, John. I guess that brings us to the end of our net this evening, and it was a pleasure being your net controller. Thank you for joining us. If you have any comments, thoughts, or suggestions, you can contact us via email at VE3MIS@RAC.ca. That's Victor Echo 3, Mike India Sierra, at Romeo Alpha Charlie Charlie Alpha. This is Victor Alpha 3 Alpha Zulu Alpha, closing the net and returning the repeater to general use. In a few minutes, it'll probably hang on to the Echo Link connection for a while. Thank you all for your participation in 7-3.